Every year, along with other United Methodist churches in Indiana, we send clergy and equal numbers of laity to annual conference. We also send equalizing laity for retired clergy in our district. This year, from our church, Pastor Crystal, Jeannie, Brian, Lydia, and Zeke all came as voting members of the conference. This is their witness of the most meaningful parts of annual conference this year. We hope that they are meaningful for you as well.
Well, so I think I went because it was kind of a calling from God that I needed to, and I wanted to learn more about how the church operated on the conference level.
One of the most exciting parts of annual conference for me this year was that this was the 70th anniversary of women getting full clergy rights in the United Methodist Church. One of the very first things we did was we went to the Cosrow breakfast to celebrate with Cosrow, which stands for the Commission on the Status and Role of Women, and it helps to make sure that women have all the same rights as and leadership opportunities that men have within the church. And as a man at that breakfast, did you feel out of place?
Not particularly.
Because there were a lot of men there, weren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the cool things about Cosrow is it's not just like a ladies group. It is like they have a mission that is around giving women equality, but that also means that men are there to support that because that's what they believe in too. So that's pretty cool. Julie is now in charge of Cosrow, which was really cool. So we got to hear her speak, and it was really cool throughout annual conference to see the improvements she's made on Cosrow since I've been there. So like the way that they're doing monitoring now, because Cosrow is in charge of monitoring who speaks at annual conference. So there's so that we can make sure there's a diversity of voices that are heard. And she's changed it a little bit so that it works better now than it did before.
Accurate.
That was really exciting.
Yeah. She was like leading the Cosrow breakfast, and she gave some cool messages and some cool shout outs. And one of those was she got to announce the 2 winners of scholarships that Cosrow granted this year. And one of them was Jamel.
Woo, go Jamel!
Well, I enjoyed the worship services down there. I thought they were really, really good. So.
Well, I was impressed with the bishop. She's just a phenomenal person. But she writes, this year we gather around the focused theme, all in and on the move, multiplying love, grounded in John 15, which is 9 through 17. And Jesus calls us to abide in his love and to love one another as he has loved us. This calling carries us beyond this gathering and compels us toward faithful response. We are invited to embody Christ's love in transformative ways, extending its reach, touching lives, and multiplying its presence across our congregations, communities, and world.
And the first worship service that we had at annual conference in celebration of 70-year anniversary of women getting their full clergy rights, we had women serve as communion stewards for us, and Camilla got to do that, and she was a little nervous, so she asked you to help her, which was really cool. So we had some young women who were serving as our communion stewards.
Yep.
And in that service, because I wasn't a communion steward, I got to be an usher, and I never get to be an usher. Brian, our head usher, watched me be an usher at the first worship service.
I had a great time hanging out with the emerging leaders the whole time, and this was the first year I spent in the emerging leaders hotel.
The main speaker who talked about taking the church outside the building. And as young children, we sang that song I am the church, you are the church, we are the church together, and there's no building. And he stressed that.
Your dad got a little frustrated with him because he was from Florida, from a big city, from a college area. So, like, his demographic compared to LaGrange, completely different. And Dad was a little concerned because, honestly, most of Indiana looks more like LaGrange than it does the city this guy came from.
Yeah.
And Dad was worried of, like, are they going to try to take these ideas that work well in a city with a young college population and try to do that in a place like LaGrange that's rural, is a little bit older of a population in general, that really don't fit who we are. Which I think was like a fair assessment of what he
I think
said.
so, yeah.
But it also becomes difficult to reach out and make the coffee shop your
Yeah.
church, your meeting group.
And it was interesting, emerging leaders had some feelings about him. Do you want to share what they thought about him?
Yeah, so me and Emerson, another emerging leader, went and visited the Lady Lounge, and we mentioned something about the speaker to like the person that was in charge of the Lady Lounge, and she's like, yeah, a lot of people have also said they like didn't particularly like his speaking, and it was mostly like people that were like 45 and younger.
Yeah,
So,
that's interesting.
yeah.
So I asked Brian and Jeannie what they thought about him, and they must also be 45 and under because they also were not super impressed with what he said and how
Yeah.
applicable it was for LaGrange.
Yeah.
But one thing that I invited them to think about was really like the idea of fresh expressions is really how are we doing ministry that doesn't look like our traditional worship service? And, you know, it doesn't fit into that nice box that, you know, we think of as this is what church looks like. And we do a lot of them here. So I was thinking about a lot of, do you guys, can you think of any of the ones that we do here that would be considered like a fresh expression that don't look like traditional worship service?
Youth Arts Festival.
The Euchre nights that the church has could be a fresh expression. And possibly the accessibility for people to have graduation parties here.
It's kind of like the lighthouse,
Right.
where we've done everything up there now. Because I'm now a volunteer up there, so.
I think also for Halloween, the church is trick-or-treating, and for Thanksgiving, last year when we had the Friendsgiving, those could also be fresh expressions.
Actually, I think our model of youth ministry, where it's not like the traditional youth ministry that I grew up with, where it's like Bible study 6 to 8 Sunday nights, but instead you guys are invited like to do a service project once a month and to do things that are much more integrated into the entire life of the church. Like those things I think are also fresh expressions.
Meet the bus.
You don't even do that one, do you?
No, I don't,
Yeah.
but.
Well, good for you, and I buy the food for it. So that's interesting that you said that.
For annual conference, we had that big school supply drive for Honduras, and we kind of made that fresh expression because we could have done that like the traditional way where we just asked our church people to bring in supplies, but we decided to expand it a little bit and we invited the schools to donate supplies as well. So we had Lakeland schools donated and Prairie Heights schools. We had 4 separate buildings who donated supplies. He had talked to the bishop about how the metrics that we currently use to measure success in ministry are not actually the best metrics. We are still using butts and seats as like a metric of how well we're doing, but really that's not the real meaning and transformation that's happening. That doesn't really measure how we're making disciples and how they're transforming the world. And I thought that was like really helpful for everyone to hear, that we can't get stuck on how many people we might see sitting still, but we should be talking about like the meaningful ministry that's coming out of our entire congregation when we're in action. There was a dance break, and that was pretty fun.
We have a good video from that, so we'll put that in right here.
Yeah. Look at the bishop's moves. She is amazing.
well, I went to the small group on missions, and it was about disaster response and the Midwest Mission. And so some of the things that they're doing, there's a place that's called Sager Brown that used to be collection for all the things for disaster. And that's not going to be any longer, but Midwest Mission in Illinois is still doing that. And they gave us the list of things, the packets we can collect if anybody was interested in doing that. But the thing that impresses me, one of the biggest things with Midwest Mission, is that they don't just go and they don't send, they're invited. And so when they send things, or you voluntarily donate things, you know that it's going to go to somebody who wants it, and it's not going to end up in trash somewhere, which so often happens when people just show up with boxes and boxes of clothes or things, even food items. If there's not some way of handling that already prepared, they don't go to good use. And so that's what Midwest Mission does. And I do have all the kits that they have. And there are a number of kits. There's a personal dignity kit, which I find an interesting name for it. Student kit, home care kit, a birthing kit, feminine hygiene kit, a layette kit, tornado kit, and a bed pack. So, there would be any number of kits that people who would be interested could put these together.
Right? I thought the Midwest Mission was a neat move.
Which of course we had just done that drive for with all the school supplies. So I was kind of excited to stop by and talk to them. And while I was talking to them, I mentioned that we were going to use their VBS curriculum. I had found it and I was excited about it. And they were like over the moon. And one of them was like, you have got to tell us how it goes and what you thought of it, and give us some feedback after you do it, because we really want to hear how it went. So they were as excited about VBS this year as we are about VBS. And while I was there, one of them wanted to really tell me about donations they get from fire departments here in the United States, because fire departments in the United States have like very strong regulations of how long they can use their equipment, even if the equipment is not all the way used up. So for like rural areas like LaGrange, that equipment may not have been used up at all, and it can still be used in places like Honduras and still be fully functional, because they don't have that same kind of regulation. So he made sure to give me information to give to Nick to take to the fire department, and let them know that they could donate their stuff there.
Oh, I stopped by a booth.
Yeah, which one?
I don't remember exactly what it was for, but they had a big billboard where you could put where from Indiana you were from, and then they would tell you about a couple of different ministries that were around that area.
Well, another thing that we did was, and this was, so many booths are set up, and one was called the Offering of Letters, and you were asked to fill out, they gave you envelopes and everything. You could fill out this letter to legislators, and basically it is asking for them to continue to provide WIC. It says, specifically, I ask you, restore, protect, and strengthen the U.S. nutrition programs, including SNAP and WIC, that help families put food on the table. And that's just another one of the ways that we reach out beyond the local church, encouraging people to be involved in the community with the legislators, because that's making a lot of the laws.
Yeah, and WIC, for those who don't know, is for children up to the age of 5 until they get into school, and it's there's a list of nutritional food that they get kind of checks for to go to the grocery store and redeem for those specific foods. And when Nick and I had Lydia and Zeke, we were not getting paid enough by the church to like really meet our needs, and both of our kids were on WIC until they entered school. So that's a program that's really dear to my heart.
Well, it goes right to scripture in Matthew 14:16. When the disciples asked Jesus to send the people away, And he replied, you give them something to eat. That's mandated, I feel like. Not just to the disciples. We are disciples today. And we need to feed those who are hungry. And the letter goes on, today that same call comes to us. As hunger grows in our midst, we must act. And so I think that that's just one of the ways through conference people were writing those letters. And, you know, reaching out, our United Women in Faith are going to be serving a meal at the garage in November, just because they feed once a month. They're feeding people.
The prison ministries are all throughout Indiana, and she talked to me about finding one near LaGrange.
One of the most interesting things that I learned about while we were there was they talked about immigration. One of the largest ICE detention facilities in the Midwest is here in Indiana. Right now, our state is holding approximately 600 immigrant men, the vast majority of whom have no criminal record, inside a state-run maximum security prison plagued by a staffing shortage, lack of medical care, and a tragic record of 2 detainee deaths earlier this year. Local families are being torn apart, leaving traumatized U.S. citizen children and spouses in desperate scramble for basic survival. Because Miami Correctional is a state-run facility, this injustice belongs to every Hoosier. We have a group of pastors, including Chris Lance, who used to be a pastor here, goes there and they do a worship service outside of the detention center every month. Along with that, there's people in the conference leadership, conference resources, that have resources around immigration and how we can help people who find themselves needing support. And that's all on the conference website, which I thought was really interesting, and I did not know very much about that at all.
Every year, Emerging Leaders gets up on the big stage and gives a little presentation. And so this year, Camilla and I, and of course some other people, both got up and talked. And Camilla had 2 different talking parts. She's in the big leagues now. And we shared a video that we made at a retreat in March that Camilla and I also both went to. And it was about community and including others and feeling the love. So we also, part of our presentation was asking the conference to make their own videos.
Yeah. And Camilla also did a prayer that morning for the entire annual conference.
And it was neat to see our
It's-
youth involved.
Yes, it's nice to see the youth involved down there at annual conference, getting involved in what's going on. Camilla did the prayers a couple times, so she was very involved in and did the emerging leaders, and I thought that was a very good presentation on there. And of course, Lydia was good on that too. So
I couldn't help but get a little sentimental because you and Zeke picked the spot where we were gonna sit the whole time. And where did you pick?
In the balcony.
In the balcony. So when you were just a baby and I was still pregnant with Zeke, he wasn't even here yet, we went up to the balcony for annual conference so that you could like run back and forth behind all the seats and make noise and like play a little bit while I was trying to stay focused on annual conference. So it felt a little like a bookend.
Aww.
Because there you were up in the balcony again.
Full circle.
I know. And I was reflecting too a little bit on when you were that little. Nobody knew who Dad and I were unless we were with you, because we were only known as the parents of the little girl with the blonde curly hair. And you have been so active in annual conference over the years that full circle moment, we are still only known as the parents of the girl with the blonde curly hair. And there was a standing ovation for Russ Abel because he was retiring this year.
Russ is retiring? Who's gonna be our new? Yes.
Our new district superintendent is gonna be Karen Kabridge.
Kolsch.
Oh, Kolsch.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Cole.
And
Karen Kolsch.
I have worked on some conference things with her in the past, and I really like her. She is
Yeah.
like very good with administration, which I feel like is really important in that role.
For sure.
Yeah, and she's been around for quite a while and done a lot of leadership in the conference as an ordained elder. So I'm excited to have her as our DS.
She seems like a chill lady. She also remembers me from when I was a baby.
Yeah, she also has curly hair.
She does. All in all, this was a great annual conference, and we hope to see you next year. Toodaloo!